Welcome everyone, welcome to our Socedo Live. My name's Jack Markham, I'm the VP of Sales over here at Socedo. And really, I thought we'd spend some time and really kind of walk through how I think about staffing a small sales organization really to achieve the maximum growth. Obviously, you can use the hashtag Socedo Live here, and if you're on Periscope, feel free to ask questions, and Tina behind the scenes will kind of filter those and ask me, and I can try to get to those as many as possible. So, if you start to think about how you're going to grow your sales organization and how to achieve maximum growth, especially when you're starting out, kind of young, kind of new, probably don't have a lot of personnel on your sales team. I think most companies start out with either one sales manager, one sales rep. But either way, as you start to grow, what's important is, do you have the right process and structure in place that is going to allow you to scale as you grow? And then as you grow, you're probably going to need more positions, more salespeople that are really regarding specialization. And I call these like SDRs, and we have SDRs here, and I can walk you through kind of how I think about staffing this up and kind of how we've grown over the last 12 months here at Socedo. And really where I like to start is the first thing you need to do is really evaluate your current organization, your current sales team, whether that's one person, two people, four people, whatever it is, but sit down and evaluate where you are as an organization. What is the role description that you want from your sales team? Is this an inbound organization or an outbound organization? Is this a transactional sales team or is it an enterprise sales team, right? Those are very different organizations, and how you build and how you structure this, and each role having specialization is going to be quite different. So I think that's the first thing you need to map out, is kind of how this role description plays out. Next is take your current staff, take your current team. Does the skill set match the role description? I think that's huge, right? I think so many times smaller companies and startups start to build their sales team, and it's just about getting successful salespeople that have great resumes and great backgrounds. But unfortunately, as a small company, you start to adapt, and you start to, one of the things as a startup is you're agile. So everything's changing very quickly. And before you know it, you have this inbound sales model, but you have outbound reps. Or you have a transactional sales model, but yet you hired enterprise reps. And so it really doesn't match. And therefore, it's going to stunt your growth, and you're going to have to go through these, 3-4 months of growing pains to get it right. So really, again, evaluate where you are, evaluate kind of the skill set you have on the team, and then kind of go from there and look at what you have to do in order to move forward. The really next important key is really establishing KPIs and metrics. So KPIs are key performance indicators. This is really what moves your business. So think about this for a minute. Every time a salesperson makes a sale or writes revenue on the board, it's an end result. It's an end result that we try to achieve for. That's why we set goals that are revenue goals. But really, the work of that comes way before the sale. And those are KPIs, right? Those are what really moves your business. So I want you to think about that for a minute. And really, the number one thing is it comes down to pipeline, right? Do you have a successful pipeline, and have you mapped out what success looks like and how you monitor that with KPIs and metrics? For instance, and kind of give you an example of how I think about this and how I kind of train my team to work backwards to figure out what success looks like to them. So number one, you start out with, let's say the target is 3,500. So that's the monthly target for a sales rep is 3,500. Now, how do you achieve that? Well, we know that, let's say you have a 750 average sales price, so ASP. Now, in order to get to 3,500, if your ASP is 750, your sales reps have to do 5 sales in a month in order to achieve success. Okay, so how do you get those 5 sales? Well, again, it's working backwards. What's your average conversion rate in your opportunities in your pipeline, right? So let's use 20. I think it's a very round number. 20% conversion. So again, working backwards, how many opportunities do you have to have in each AE or each salesperson's pipeline in order to achieve these 5 sales? Well, 20% would be 25. So you'd have to have a pipeline of 25 every single day. And here's the huge misconception. This isn't just in the beginning of a month. That 25 needs to remain steady throughout the month, every single day. And this is where the KPI metrics come in, so you can manage this on a daily basis. So now that we have our opportunities, we can't stop there, right? It's even going further back. how are you going to get these? How are each rep going to achieve the 25 opportunities? And really it starts from how many MQLs do they need, or leads, right? So if you look at MQLs, that's really driving the business. How many MQLs do we need to get to 25 opportunities? Well, the average conversion rate really is about 12% MQL to opportunity in most businesses. Obviously, if you're in a business that this is a little bit higher or lower, you can adjust these, but I'm trying to use as real numbers as possible, and they're easy to compute here. So if a 12% conversion to get to 125, that's about 160 leads that you have to drive to that rep in order to achieve this success. Okay. Now you can actually break this down. Now that we have this pipeline mapped out, now you can actually break this down to KPIs, to key performance indicators. And really, what I like to do is kind of split this in half, right? Because I think this is the first part, and really the KPIs that you should be monitoring up here are activities. And for activities, I look at calls and talk time. Okay, that calls and talk time really are going to drive this up here. 160 leads, you start to map out calls, talk time, and the other thing I think that's important is emails and social engagement, right? So we all know in this business, and we've heard hundreds of times, that if I give you 160 leads, really to maximize those leads, it's all about touches. These leads, think about building a model that you need to touch these leads at least 6 times, but ideally you want at least an average of 10 touches per lead. That is really going to drive up this conversion here to where you can exceed the 12%, maybe even around 20%, right? So if you start driving the 160 leads on average, 10 touches per lead, you're looking at very, very high volume of touches, then map that out, divide that by the working days, and now you can actually map and have targets around how many calls per day each rep should make. What's the average talk time that you're getting engagement? How many emails should be going out through your CRM, whether it's Salesforce, NetSuite, or any other CRM that you use? And then how much social engagement are you using in order to engage these leads to move down the funnel to get to the 25 opportunities in the pipeline? The next portion of this is once you actually have the opportunities in the pipeline, there are different key metrics here that you want to pay attention to. Again, I think it's a whole set of different activities. So we'll write activities here, and just think about the same line: calls, talk times, emails, right? You need to engage this 25 and make sure that it's moving. And the way I think about it is a pipeline should be moving like this. So everything's moving and evolving in your pipeline. It's moving in, it's either towards close won or it's close lost and you're moving out, right? But this 25 is an evolving number. So this is activities, and I think another one here is agreements out. So, getting agreements out, quotes out, having those pricing conversations, those are things that you can start putting together on a really a metric and driving that on a daily basis, right? Here's the one thing. Here's why key KPIs are definitely important when it comes to driving sales teams, especially for a young team, is, every single day, not necessarily revenue is going to hit the board or sales aren't going to come in. And so it's important that in the back of your mind as a sales leader, you're probably thinking about morale. Morale has to be a huge driver of what you find successful in a sales team. And so when you think about morale, if people aren't writing sales on the board every day, or maybe even once a week they're not getting sales, that can be a really demotivator. So you have to set these KPIs to where your sales team can come in and look at, here's what I have to accomplish today, and here's how I'm going to be successful today, right? I'm going to make this many calls. I'm going to have this amount of talk times. I'm going to have this amount of conversations, and that's going to lead to this amount of agreements going out today. So even if a sale doesn't come in, how much work did they put in that day to get to the end result, right? Writing that deal on the board and getting someone to say yes to them is kind of out of their control at some point, right? The ultimate decision is with your clients. They're going to decide whether to move forward with your product or not. What your reps do in the meantime before that, which is here in the activities, that's really going to drive, right? You're trying to run this numbers game to get more at-bats. And more at-bats, again, you run this numbers game and you do the average conversion in some of your historical data that you have, you can get to this magic number of 5 on this example of here. And then the other KPIs to look for in metrics are really productivity. So once you have a sales team established, you can start looking at monthly productivity. How many transactions did each rep bring in? What's the average selling price or ASP? How many leads did it take to actually get to this, and how many opportunities did it take to get to your magic number here? You can start looking at productivity and monitoring your reps as far as a productivity month after month after month. Really, the next important key, so to make all of this happen, is you really need to focus on some hiring. So hiring staff, salespeople, or positions is probably one of the biggest things as a sales leader we do. I know 50% of my time is spent on recruiting and hiring right now. And, I think a lot of companies miss it. And I think a lot of companies, the reason why they miss it is because they take this shotgun approach and, I'm going to hire 10 people with the idea that only 2 are going to stick. That's really, you can do that approach, but think about the resources, the dollars that you're wasting on taking that approach. I think the best approach is figure out what is the skill set you're looking for, what are the traits and the culture around your company and your sales team that you're trying to build. So for me, for instance, I know I build my sales teams on 4 different traits: leadership, accountability, conviction, and integrity. So those 4 traits have always been how I've built my sales staff, and here at Socedo is no different. And so I go out and look for that. Now, hard to find in a resume, right? Those 4 traits are hard to find in a resume. So what we do is we narrow it down by resumes. However, in the live interview, in that one-to-one interview, and even in the pre-interview with the phone interview, I'm looking and I'm asking questions that are centered around those traits, right? Because I know if I can bring in people with those traits, I know that's going to fit my current culture that I have at the company right now, as well as I know that they're going to be set up for success. There's 2 things that I realized at kind of building sales staffs a long time ago is I can't teach someone leadership or accountability or conviction and integrity, right? Those are traits, and you have to go out and find people that have that skill set. The one thing you can train as a sales leader, though, is the skill set, right? Is objection responses and some of the activities, good emails to send, and things like that. So, I think finding those traits, going out and hiring those traits are going to be huge. Think about the positions we have at Socedo. We have AEs, we have SDRs, we have team lead, we have a manager, and all of those positions and all of the staff we have here all roll up to those 4 traits. Now, each position brings a different level of those traits, as our SDRs are very entry level into sales, and they're very specialized on the early adoption of the pipeline. And then you have the AE, which is really the bottom funnel of the pipeline, and their specialization is just closing business. Then you have team leads that are kind of a hybrid, right? The hybrid of helping SDRs kind of do their job better, as well as they're still focusing down here. And then you have a manager that kind of sits above that and is really just primarily focused on people development, right? What makes people tick on their team, what every single salesperson you have will have different motivation, so really finding that. And again, that goes all the way back to the hiring. If you're hiring the right people and you're figuring out what traits are important to your sales org or your company and what the culture is, going out and finding that instead of worrying about experience, go and interview based on traits, right? Ask questions based on traits that are going to find you some leadership and accountability. And then so if you start to look at like how we've built sales here at Socedo, I think one of the things is how I tackle that is I have a lot of different tools to help me. I know for recruiting and hiring, I use a platform called Jazz. Excellent platform. I'm able to keep all of my candidates in there through the entire hiring process, and I can go back and say, okay, this candidate was a great candidate because of X, Y, Z, and then I can go find other candidates similar to that. Other tools that we find very helpful here is Yesware. I don't know how many of you are using Yesware. I've heard of Yesware, but for our SDR team, it has absolutely been a game changer. Nowadays it's all about relevant content. And I think most smaller companies, if you have a smaller sales staff, you're probably thinking social is the way to go, and absolutely it is. You have to have those engagements on social. It's going to allow you to get deeper into the clients, especially if you're a smaller sales staff, right? What is some of the way to grow that stellar achievement in revenue? It's really If you're small, you have to go deeper in more accounts, and that's really having the social tools there. Yesware kind of feeds into that and gives your SDR team or even your A team reasons to reach out instead of just hoping and guessing and doing those anonymous follow-ups. So, I think other tools, obviously we use Salesforce as a huge CRM. The one thing I'll say about Salesforce is only as good as your sales team is. So one thing that we preach here over and over at Socedo is make sure that you're keeping up-to-date records in Salesforce. That's pipeline, that's close dates, that's customer records, customer notes. We also have a customer success team here. And so part of my sales team and what I push my sales staff for is not just bringing in people and making sales, but how do we bring in the right customers? How do we set them up to be successful? And then how do we turn that over to customer success to make sure that these customers that are coming in, I don't want the same customer that we signed up 5 months from now, right? That customer should evolve, and based on the level of our platform and the success that we're driving, they should be a much more evolved company 5 months from now, 6 months from now. That all starts on the sales side. And that starts from the notes, every conversation. What are some of the key questions? What are some of the key answers that your sales staffs are asking? Is that documented into Salesforce? And is it accessible for the account management or the customer success org to pick that up and start those conversations right where the sales team left off? So I think up-to-date notes in any CRM, whether it's Salesforce, NetSuite, whatever you're using, I think is going to be vital as far as some of the tools that you're using out there. And obviously KPIs, I spent a great deal documenting this and going over this, but KPIs is something that we probably look at 3 times, 4 times a day, right? When I got here to Socedo, was that small sales staff. We didn't have metrics. We really looked at just deals on the board. And so implementing metrics have really turned our business into something that we can monitor on a daily basis to see, are we trending in the right direction? I think one of the things that's lost in sales teams is 30 days or a month can be a long time. It feels like a marathon. But if you break up the month into short sprints, then you're always managing that month, and you should never get to a point in the month where you're that far off from your numbers as long as you're managing that in sprints. And I think KPIs for us have allowed us to do that, right? You can take a 30-day business, which we are at Socedo, right? We're measured every 30 days on what we project and what we bring in, but yet we've broken that business down to almost a daily or weekly based on the team knows exactly what they have to accomplish today and tomorrow and for the week in order to be on track to hit their goals. KPIs is a huge difference maker to the team, and it's something that we really do a lot here and really focus on a lot here. So, Tina, questions?
We haven't got any, but
No
if
questions.
anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask now or email jack@socedo.com if you have any questions.
All right, thank you everybody. Thanks for attending. Hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.